Welcome to Puny Pod, the podcast that doesn't have a quote because we're not doing a movie today. I am Ryan, and I am joined, as I have been for the last 2 years, the last 3 phases of Marvel, by my co-host, David. David, how are we doing?
We are not doing a movie today, my man. We are doing all the movies.
This is true. This is a bit of a departure from our usual movie reviews that you come to expect every month. I almost said that you had come to expect the first Tuesday of every month, but we're even breaking that tradition this month. So usually, if you're new here, this is a weird one. Welcome. But this one is basically we just finished up phase 3 of the MCU, which for context, that finishes up with Spider-Man Far From Home. We'll go through all the movies here in a second, but when we finish up a phase, we like to go back. We like to look back at the phase, kind of reminisce on our episodes, reminisce on the movies, hit anything maybe that we missed, plus kind of do some wrap-up type stuff. So that's what we do here. Typically, we do watch the movies in release order. Now, I will tell you, if you are new here, you are in for 3 months without a Marvel, without a Marvel thing. And I think you are in for 5 months, if memory serves, without a Marvel movie. So just a heads up on that. We will get back to the movies, we promise you. But
you're getting Marvel stuff, right?
Yeah,
you're getting Marvel stuff. We're
the TV shows.
Getting the TV shows.
Getting
to talk a little about the recent releases.
Yeah.
Talk about nonsense Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, and if you are interested in getting some of the recent releases stuff, go over to our monthly Bugle episodes. There is something releasing every month for Marvel right now. So if you are interested in what is current, go listen to the monthly Bugle. That's where we'll do that. But let's get to our main programming here today. So we are going to review phase 3. Next month we will do a full saga review, so there's going to be some things that are a little different with this phase review from that we did a little differently in phase 1, phase 2 reviews. Like, for example, we're not going to rank all the movies of the Infinity Saga until the saga review because it kind of fits a little bit better over there. And we finished what a lot of people think of as the Marvel, right? The Marvel universe is kind of, a lot of people think of it as the Infinity Saga. And we talked a lot during some of our main shows. And I know during our super secret spoiler show for Endgame, we talked about how you would be forgiven for kind of saying, Marvel is done. They told the Marvel story, right? And so, it's pretty exciting. I am proud of us as a podcast for getting to this point.
Yeah, this will be a different show. We are going to look at for those that listened to the movie episode reviews, those are usually pretty long. Kind of nerd out on details. This will be a little more high level in terms of the movies again, but we promise to give you 1 hour reviews for each one. So this will be our first 13-hour podcast. I'm ready to go. So
you got your Depends on?
I got my.
You got your mural?
Come on, man!
It's been a few episodes, man.
Ruined it. Jesus, who am I? Are you the Scroll?
Oh,
damn! This is getting real right now. Holy cow! Anyway, so.
Well, David. I should also mention we are going to avoid spoiling any major plot points. I mean, there's not
much left.
To spoil. But like, I don't know. We're not going to spoil stuff from like Quantumania and whatever, like big stuff from that. Like, just know we're going to try and avoid spoiling that stuff. If you're like, why aren't they talking about the way that Qui-Gon came back and rescued Darth Jar Jar? Um,
I don't know what
it,
you're talking about. No, we were no. But to
yeah,
your point, like we're not going to get into the content of stuff we're going to talk about in the future. There's not a
yeah.
lot of stuff that's going to spoil like phase 4, 5, and 6. But
Yeah,
to your
you don't have
point,
Iron Man's death anymore, right?
right?
We're not gonna. We've been there. We've been there, done that.
Yep, yep. So
So, David, what overall kind of production notes do you have for Phase 3?
sure, yeah. So from a high level summary of the phase, I'm going to compare a little bit to some of the two prior phases, and to kind of like show how, to Ryan's point, like a lot of people view this as the Marvel. This was a big phase. Finishing up this phase was a fairly significant milestone. So phase 3 had 11 movies in it. Captain America Civil War premiered in May 2016. A few months later, in November, Doctor Strange came out, November 2016. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out May 2017. Spider-Man Homecoming came out 2 months later in July 2017. Thor Ragnarok in November. This is when we're in the cycle of getting like 3 movies a year, right? Which we haven't had for a while. Black Panther, February 2018. Avengers Infinity War, April 2018. Ant-Man and the Wasp, July 2018. Captain Marvel came out in 2018, as did Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home. Pretty amazing to think that there are only like 37 months between Captain America Civil War and Spider-Man Far From Home. 11 movies in
Yeah,
37 months, which is wild to think.
yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy how much they packed in, and I mean, we're back to 3 movies this year, but I mean, it's also been a while. It's been 5 years since we had that type of release schedule.
Yep. Yep. So we are spoiled children. The phase did pretty well financially. I'm not going to lie. Overall production budget for the entire phase was 2.34 billion, which averaged about 212 million a movie. The overall opening weekend was 1.17 billion dollars. So made half of their money back in the opening weekend alone. 163 million average. Overall worldwide overall domestic gross, was 4.95 billion. Overall worldwide gross 13.5 billion, averaging 1.27 billion per movie. I'm going to repeat that. The movies on average made $1.2 billion. To compare to phase 1, the highest grossing film of phase 1 was The Avengers, made 1.5 billion, made a ton of money. Number 2, Iron Man 2, 621 million, and it goes down from there. Phase 2, we had Avengers Age of Ultron, number 1 grossing film, made about 1.4 billion. Iron Man 3 made about 1.2 billion. Then it drops after that to Guardians of the Galaxy, 770 million. In this phase, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movies which made more than $1 billion.
That's so nuts.
6 movies, right? They're hoping to get to like six or 7 for Captain America and Thunderbolts, and like 700 million, like 600 million would have been the worst movie in phase 3.
It's such a banger of a phase. Like, I we can talk about this maybe more in the saga review, but I think it's an easy pick for the best phase.
It's not even debatable. You could add up the other phases together. It is what it is. The 5 of the top 10 grossing movies in the MCU came from this phase. Endgame, 2.8 billion. Infinity War, 2 billion. Black Panther, 1.33 billion. You know, it's the average movie. You know, they made 13.5 billion. If you take out one thing that is kind of interesting though, if you do take out Infinity War and Endgame, or if you just take out Endgame, the movie still grossed $1 billion. If you take out Infinity War and Endgame, the average is still 960 million. So there was
Jeez.
very profitable and very popular. The Rotten Tomato score has gone up every phase as well. Phase 1 average was 80%. This is the critic score. The average in phase 2 was 84.5%, and the average in phase 3 was 89%. And which includes the number one Marvel project of all time, or Marvel movie to date, is Black Panther at a crisp 96%. So, do you want to guess what the lowest rated one was from the phase?
By critic score, right?
By critic score.
I'm going to guess that the lowest critic score was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Close. Ant-Man and the Wasp got 87%. It was Captain Marvel, 79%.
Okay, that was my second guess.
Yeah, but literally, that's the worst movie you cranked out in the phase. That's not bad. Like,
Yeah,
kill for that in later phases.
Sony would kill for that.
Sony would cut off both of its arms if it had arms for this kind of. Yeah, it goes without saying. It has been a very profitable, well received. You have to imagine almost impossible to duplicate phase. Like you don't want to say never, but it's going to be really hard to recreate.
Hard to get back there.
Yeah. So yeah, but that it shows the trend, the overall trend. The trend, the movie's gonna make more money. It builds up to this big climax, and they should just walked away, right? Should be done. No, I'm kidding. Everything else would be done after this one. No, that's basically like how the phase went in review from a financial and critical perspective.
Right on. So I did want to give a quick summary to our side of things, right? We've been at this for another phase. So, real quick, I pulled our listener metrics for phase 3. I wanted to see, who's listening to us, who listens to our show. So we are international. The top 5 countries that listened to us during phase 3, we had Canada coming in at number 5, our friendly friends to the north. I will be seeing you guys next month. I'm not seeing our listeners. I am seeing Canada next month. But
I was going to say, what do you have planned? Like, are you doing like a tour?
Oh man, that would be so cool. But no. So yeah, Canada came in at 5th place. Singapore came in at 4th place. I believe, David, that's your influence, right?
I might have begged coworkers to download the
podcast. Germany. This one surprised me. I have no idea how, and it's because just so folks know a little bit behind the scenes, we can actually see we can't see your address, but we can see what town the IP address is registered to and stuff.
It's got so creepy all of a sudden.
Oh, I know.
We can actually listen to you through the podcast.
To it.
And people can probably do that, but anyway.
No, we can see the towns, and these towns are all over Germany. It's not just a bunch of people in one town or anything like that. So that one was really cool to me. Number 2 is the UK, which I know we actually had early on. We had some guests on all the way back in phase 1, Iron Man 2. We had Curtis and his co-host from the Throw and Dice podcast on, and they joined our show, and they've been listening strong. They've been telling their friends, and it shows. And number 1,
Peru. So weird.
Number 1 is the US. So real quick, this statistic surprised me. I'm not going to lie. David, you have the the outline in front of you, so I'm not going to make you guess.
We're the number 11 Marvel podcast. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
pretty
number
stoked
11.
about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, the number one city who listened to us during phase 3 is Plymouth, England. So all you Plymouthers, Plymouthians,
Should have
uh,
quit while you were ahead,
San
man.
Diegans, everybody from Plymouth, thank you for listening. That's been really great. I also will say I want to give a special shout out to Jimmy from Supreme Resort and the other podcast that he's on, Scraping the Vault.
Jim Vault.
He specifically mentioned that he's started listening to us on a recent episode. So Jimmy, if you're hearing this, thank you for listening.
Check is in the mail.
And yeah, we do appreciate all of our listeners, every single person who listens. The best thing that you can do, real quick, just to get this plug out of the way, the best thing you can do to help us is tell somebody else, right? Try and be the Plymouth of next phase, right? Get your whole town to listen, and your town can get a shout out in phase 4. um but no, thank you everybody who listens. Genuinely, this will be the last time we really do podcasty, thank you type of stuff, but it is a big deal, right? Like we this was a whole year. This was 12 episodes, so basically a whole year of getting through some cool podcasts, and another year under our belts, and a lot of people helped us get there, and each one of you who listens helps us get there. So thank you all. Please let us know what you enjoyed, and yeah, from there, why don't we get into the phase, unless you got anything else, David?
No, just thanks for the listeners. A year of blood, sweat, and tears. Looking forward to the future years. And thanks to everyone who listens. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, let's get into the phase a little further. So just to remind you all of what movies are in the phase, David kind of ran down their release schedule, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to give a real quick summary of each movie. Not actually an hour long, but
What? Why? Dude, I did all that research. It took me 4 days.
well, save it for the phase review, or for the saga review. So first movie of phase 3 is Captain America Civil War. The Avengers have a massive breakup over government paperwork, while Helmut Zemo pulls the strings like a telenovela villain and wins without throwing a single punch. So Team Cap versus Team Iron Man. I'm pretty sure everybody remembers Civil War.
I love Civil War. Civil War is awesome. I think people like to call it the fourth Avengers movie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Avengers Civil War, not Captain America Civil War. Yeah,
But I think one of the things that I'm struck with when you watch it for the 100th time, I'm just reminded like they introduced 2 new characters in
yeah,
one movie, which I think is a really smart way to do it, and I hope that they do more of it this year with the movies that they are bringing out.
yeah, yeah. It was a really good way to bring in some really cool characters that ended up being very impactful in both Black Panther and Spider-Man. So loved to see that. Episode 2 of phase 3 was Doctor Strange. A narcissistic surgeon crashes his car, learns magic instead of going to therapy, and annoys Dormammu into giving up with an infinite time loop.
Dormammu.
I have come to bargain.
I've come to. I think that's why we have so many listeners in Germany and UK. It's for the accent work,
Yeah,
right?
there we go. It's our accent work. Oh man. So yeah, Doctor Strange. Things get trippy, things get weird, things get problematic when they recast the Ancient One. Yeah.
Um, yeah, dude, I don't want to say I forget this movie, but it seems like 10 years since we talked about it.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm just like, oh yeah,
It
Mordo's
is a
still gone.
it is
Forgot.
a right, right. It is a fun one to watch like on a Sunday afternoon or something, but it's definitely kind of the background tapestry of the MCU, if you will.
Yeah, totally.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Peter Quill meets his long lost space dad Ego, who turns out to be a genocidal god. He blows him up with the power of friendship and explosives.
This was a fun rewatch. I love the Guardians. Like
Yeah.
this is I heard it described that Marvel, going back to the earlier comment around introducing characters and kind of like giving T'Challa, giving Peter Parker, Spider-Man, like a little bit of time, a little bit of screen time in advance of their own movies was a really smart way of doing it. And the question was asked, like, when was the last time that Marvel just launched brand new, not even a character, but a team of characters, like at the same time that you loved without any kind of context? And I think it was Guardians. I think the first Guardians, I can't think of another one, right? All the Thunderbolts have been seen in something else. The Avengers, they led up to it with like 5 movies. So, yeah.
Yeah, Guardians was the first hard launch and probably the only team hard launch, I would say.
I think that's right. Eternals?
Yeah, that's fair. Eternals.
Fantastic Four this year. So
yeah.
it'll be interesting. Like I think like in hindsight, Guardians 2, sorry Eric, I still don't like it as much as Guardians 1, but it's still really it's still fun. The music soundtracks are all great.
Oh yeah. Always good. Great. Spider-Man Homecoming was episode 4 of the second phase. Peter Parker juggles homework and superhero life while trying to impress Tony Stark, all while fighting the Vulture, who just so happens to be his crush's dad.
Super awkward.
This one was awesome. I mean, it was the introduction to Spider-Man. It was called Homecoming because it was Spider-Man coming to the MCU. So, there was a lot of really cool production details. I will say, if you are a fan of our production details and our comic details parts of our episodes, the introductory movies in this phase are all super solid, in my opinion. Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Black Panther, all of those had some really strong production details. This one was really interesting on the production details front. David did a lot of really good research because the Sony stuff was so weird. And so really, really great. I think that part was interesting. Plus, the Spider-Man movies are just so fun. They're just always fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the interaction between Tony.
The hug.
I mean, the hug is great.
Encapsulates it, but yeah.
The him not so subtly like hitting on Aunt May, like her fantastic date loaf comments. He's great. I'm reminded. It's funny. Like last night, I'm like I just pop on something on. Actually, I was on. I think it was Amazon Prime, and there's like Tropic Thunder, and I'm watching it for the 100th time, and I'm just like, oh, that dude became like the savior of the MCU. Like it's just so hard to believe. Like Robert Downey Jr. blackface was like right before, like that was, I think it was right before Iron Man 1, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
it would have been just before. Yeah. Moving on to episode 5, Thor Ragnarok. Doom, 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 doom. Thor loses his hammer, gets a makeover, teams up with the Hulk and lets a giant fire demon trash Asgard just to take down his sister Hela.
Awkward family dynamic.
Yeah. Love this movie. I mean, it was fun. What's
your favorite scene from this movie, or what's one of your favorite scenes? Like, there's a lot of good ones.
There's a lot of good ones. I think for me, probably one of my favorites is when they're coming up with the plan and they're like talking about the time that Loki turned into a snake, how much Thor hates snakes, and yeah. That part's great.
I like I have come to enjoy the plays, right?
Oh
Where they're
yeah.
like those are always good. But the like the when Thor like realizes he's not the god of hammers, right?
He's the god of
And
hammer.
the music and he's on the
Oh yeah.
bridge. Bum, 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 bum. It's I every time I watch it, goosebumps. It's so good.
It's so good. So good. Um movie number 6. This is honestly a nominee for our best main feed episode. I think one, the movie is great. Two, I, I am largely, and I think David, you would agree with this, largely the most proud of this episode. I think this episode is like a episode that we look back on, and that is Black Panther. Um, the quick summary of the movie for those who maybe don't remember, though I would be shocked if you didn't. T'Challa has to fight his long lost cousin Killmonger, who has a valid point, but an absolutely unhinged plan, leading to a high tech cat fight for the throne. Hi, Auntie. I This episode, like, the movie's great, right? Like top tier movie. We'll talk about where we rank them in a second, but um, I think this episode is not our funniest. It
Nope.
probably is one of our best researched, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say it's probably the one that I am the most proud of making.
I would agree with that. I think yeah, it's not going to be the most humorous episode for sure. It I think we talked about at the time. It's really important to really kind of capture the significance, the importance of this movie. And I mentioned going to the theater and watching it and can't getting tickets anywhere in Oakland, and
Yeah,
talking about like how the filmmaker like comes to the Grand Lake Theater in Oakland and like shocks the crowd who are there on opening night, and seeing little kids take pictures in front of the cardboard cutouts. And so you you know, and it still, I don't know, still resonates to this day. A lot of times we joke about like, hey, what do you remember seeing this movie? It's like, I don't know, I vaguely remember it. Like this one, I remember everything. I remember
oh yeah,
everything because it was so important. And I would encourage people, if you've not listened to the episode, to listen to the episode, because there was so much thought brought into creating it by the filmmakers and by the costume designers and by the production set people and everyone who contributed to it, that you don't even appreciate like how much went into it. It is fantastic. I
yeah,
strongly encourage people like to listen to that one episode because there's so much there. Some of the movies, let's be honest, some of the movies like there's no there's not a lot. It's a
yeah,
shallow pool, right?
yeah,
Well, I'm looking at
yeah.
you, Iron Man 2. But for this, like, but for Black Panther, it's like it's just even today, like the impact is so big.
Yeah, literally, we're recording this on the 12th of February. This last weekend was Super Bowl Sunday. A song from the soundtrack to Black Panther was played at the halftime show. What is it? 7 years on now. It literally, the cultural impact is um is immense. And in the tradition of this podcast, I will say, what's appropriate for the main feed? Suck it, Ike Perlmutter.
Get the edit button ready. Eat shit, Ike Perlmutter.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So yeah. Moving on from Black Panther, episode 7. Eric came back to us to guest on this episode. It was Avengers Infinity War. Thanos goes on a rock collecting spree, beats up everyone, snaps half of the universe out of existence, and the Avengers kind of just let it happen. Just kidding, they don't just let it happen. But yeah,
Well, they
so
kind of did, but
yeah, right. um fun episode. We'll talk about where this movie ranks within the phase here shortly, but great movie. You know,
Yeah. What can you add to it?
yep,
Again, it's better than Endgame, but let's keep going.
yeah, sure. Moving on to a couple here that honestly I think the plots of these next two movies frequently get forgotten, because they are, as I termed it, the armpit between Infinity War and Endgame, which is unfair to these movies. They were actually pretty good. Number 8 here was Ant-Man and the Wasp. Scott Lang teams up with Hope Van Dyne to fight Ghost, who is less of a villain and more of an unfortunate science experiment, while also dodging the FBI. Yeah, fun.
Yeah, it's fine. Good for Ghosts. That would not have been on my bingo card of people that I've not seen since Phase 3 that are going to show up
Go back
in
up.
a movie in 2025. Like, never would have guessed.
Yeah. Um and with this one too, I mean, this was the first titular female character. We had not had a female character in the title, a female superhero in the title, up to this point.
Yep.
So first
Yep.
one.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, and on rewatch, I think I enjoyed it better than I had remembered. I think I was kind of dreading the villain was kind of weak and it was kind of weird, but
Yeah.
and but everyone knows that I'm a huge fan of like the microverse and the quantum realm and all. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Oh, let me shut up. Be quiet.
Now 9 for 90s is Captain Marvel, and this is probably an entry for our funniest episode. We had Dan from the Supreme Resort and Scraping the Vault and Bowie Splaining as our guest on this episode. It was nonsense. If you are looking for nonsense, if you are looking for a very silly episode that also has some, like, I'm not gonna lie, deep discoveries about this movie and current events that it may or may not relate to, um this is the episode. So Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, realizes the Kree have been gaslighting her. She unlocks god tier powers and punches Yon-Rogg into oblivion without even breaking a sweat.
That's pretty
So
much it. I mean,
yeah,
that's add some dialogue and some CGI and a cat. That's pretty much it.
and lots of 90s
And lots of 90s songs. There were
slap bracelets,
some slap bracelets.
bush glycerine.
Oh no. Oh no. Here we go again. It's
I'm just
clobbering
a girl.
time.
Oh man.
Anyway.
And then the end of the phase, right? Just kidding. The penultimate movie to the phase, Avengers Endgame. Eric came back as promised for every Avengers movie except for Age of Ultron. The Avengers invent time travel, bring everybody back, throw hands with Thanos again. Only this time, Iron Man gets the last snap and dies.
Yeah. I do like the idea that Age of Ultron will be Eric's tiki room that never happens.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's just gonna be the constant joke.
totally.
So yeah, Endgame. What more is there to say? You guys just listened to that episode like 2 months ago.
What do you mean episode?
Yeah, that's true. We did. This was our longest episodes to date. 4-part. We recorded. I think you guys only got. I don't think you guys got all 6 hours.
Well, save something for
But
the Patreon. It's funny. I was listening to like one of the early spoiler show episodes. We're like, oh man, when we get to Endgame, man, that's gonna be like 2 hours. Holy cow! Like,
we had what? Black Panther was multiple parts. Obviously Endgame and Infinity War were multiple
mhm.
parts.
I think the rest would be ones. I think, with the
Were
exception maybe
they?
of the TV shows, right?
I think Civil War maybe was 2 parts.
Civil War might have been.
But we spent a lot of time with these
Yeah.
movies.
Anything was heavy on like production and comic stuff. Oftentimes we get split, but
Yeah. The last movie of the phase, Spider-Man Far From Home, Peter Parker just wants to enjoy his European vacation, but Mysterio, a disgruntled ex-Stark employee, fakes a whole alien invasion just to steal some glasses. Um, so, you know, our favorite red scarf wearing Jake Gyllenhaal in his Mysterio get up gets after Spider-Man. It was fun. There's really not much. It's not. I mean, watch. I will say this is probably the most license plates per capita that I paid attention to.
No kidding. Yeah, it felt like a weird tail to
Yeah,
the rest of the Phase 3 dog, if you ask me.
yeah,
It's enjoyable, still fun. I think you and I, like, I don't hold the Spider-Man movies quite as high in esteem, and we'll see as we get into the rankings here in a second, but still super fun on rewatch. Jake Gyllenhaal's great. It's a
yeah,
fun movie.
yeah. Um, so let's get into our ranking. So I'm not going to go through our phases 1 and 2 rankings because I think right now it's better to save that ranking for the saga.
Mm-hmm.
So David, I don't know that we did this in the last couple phase reviews. What we're going to do is we're going to rank the phases or the movies of the phase against the other movies of the phase. So 1 through 11.
Right. Correct. Yep. So just to summarize, to date, there have been I think there have been 36 MCU films as we record this, which gives roughly, we've tried to, when we review the films and talk about them, we try to guesstimate, like, does this seem like your top third, middle third, bottom third? Those are not like kind of hard distinctions, but, just to give a sense for how highly you hold the movie in esteem.
Yeah.
And so to summarize where we are, I should notice, we are 11-minute films in this. We're 23 films in. Okay. And we've got another 13 to fill out. If you look at like the kind of the top third, middle third, bottom third, we've used, as of phase 1 and phase 2, you would use 7 top thirds. I'd use 5. You would use 2 middle thirds. I'd use 3. And then 3 bottom thirds, and I've done 4. And these are not like entirely precise because stuff kind of shifts as we reorder or re-rank. So phase 3, we're going to go. Do you want to go just in release order? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, let's go release order, and we can reshuffle. Like,
Okay.
you're not locking yourself. If you say like Civil War was your number 3 of the phase, I'm not. You can reorder that later on if you realize that was wrong.
Okay. So we had both. I agree. I think that's the way to do it. We had both agreed that this was in our top third. So one of the top 12 movies of all time. Spoiler, we'd had a lot of other things in the top third this phase as well. So where is this for you? It's still kind of top third. Is this like, if we're just thinking about the 11 films right now, is it in your top 3?
I think I am gonna go 5.
I'm kind of at a 5 as well.
Yeah.
I really do like this film quite a bit. There's some other bangers we're about to get to that doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
That's what I was gonna say. I know what else is in this phase, so I can't in good conscience put it number 1.
Yep.
Or even top 3. Doctor Strange. Where are you putting it?
I am tentatively putting it at 10.
Okay. That's close. I'm just looking through the list here quickly. I'm gonna say 9 for right now. I think there's a couple that are worse than it, but we'll get there.
Whoa. Shots fired at Endgame. Okay, well, let's keep going. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah,
This is a tough one, man.
Because it's not a bad movie. I also want to say, right, whatever movie gets 11, whatever movie gets 10, whatever movie gets 9, you're talking about arguably the top. You're talking about the bottom of the top, essentially. You are you. An argument could be made that all 11 movies from this phase could be the top third of the MCU. They're, with some exception. But so when we say that a movie, keeping in mind what David kind of set up at the top of like the lowest ranked movie of this on Rotten Tomatoes is coming in at 76%. These are all very good movies. So even when we say something's the worst, it's not bad.
Dude, Kevin Feige would push his family down a flight of stairs to have Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which made in any of the recent phases, which made $870 million and
Right.
was like 85% of Rotten Tomatoes. So to your point, yeah, it's this. We are only ranking it because you just got to put them in order. So what's this for you?
I'm gonna put this one. Actually, I'm immediately already fixing myself.
Okay, go for it.
I'm going 9 for this,
Oh wow. Okay.
and bumping Doctor Strange up to 8.
Okay. I will put Guardians. I know I'm going to reorder this. I'm going to put it as 7 for now.
Okay. Let's see here. Spider-Man: Homecoming. We both put it in our top third of the whole MCU. I should have said that, by the way. Both of us put Civil War in our top third. Both of us put Doctor Strange in middle third. Both of us put Guardians 2 in middle third. Homecoming we both put in the top third.
Okay, let me ask you this. So I'm not. We're going to reorder this a little bit. What do you put higher up, Homecoming or Far From Home?
Oh, that's such a hard choice.
Well, you're gonna have to make it pretty soon,
Yeah, I
man.
know, right? I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put Homecoming in at 6, and I think Far From Home will actually be lower
Yeah,
than that.
I'm gonna put Homecoming at an 8,
Okay.
and then get ready to retype everything. Next up, Thor Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok, top third for me, top third for you.
We actually had consensus almost across the whole thing, across the whole phase here.
Well, until you started voting things like Endgame low
Well,
and
yeah, because you made me.
you ran that top thirds. You only have so many cards. I mean,
I
like
could be wrong.
I told you were going to run out. You're like, nah. You're just like spinning like a drunken sailor. Like, oh yeah, Iron Man 2, top third. Like, all right, man, you're going to regret that in a year and a half. So for Ragnarok for you, top 4, top 3.
So it's not top 4, not top 3. Do I like it more? Did I screw up real bad already? No, I did not. I'm gonna go 7.
Wow.
I love the movie. I think I like, and I will say that 2 years ago, if you were talking to me pre dad mode where I have a kid who loves Spider-Man, I think there may be a difference there. I think
I'm
the character Spider-Man gets a bump for me.
intrigued what your 4 is. This is 4 for me.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh, you're right. I might have just done that stupid. Okay. You're right.
You can reorder them. It doesn't matter.
I'm
Do you want to reorder it now? Do you want to change it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
You have Civil War 5. You have
Yeah.
Homecoming at 6. You have Strange at 8. You have Guardians of the Galaxy at 9.
5, 6, 7 to me. Civil War, Homecoming, Ragnarok. It's gonna be a mismatch on where it is given the day.
Okay.
And so for that reason, I'm actually gonna move Ragnarok up to 4 because you're right. I know what my 3 are. I know what my top 3 are, but 4 was kind of a mystery for me. So I'm actually going to say that this climbs up and into the 4th place. So essentially 4, 5, 6 are Depending on the day, you might catch me saying one of those is different.
I think that's right. I think it's you. I debated between this and 3 for me.
Yeah.
This is 4 or 3.
All right, next one, Black Panther.
We both had
One
in our top third.
we both had in our top third.
I'm putting it number 1.
Okay. I suspected that might be the case. I am going to go number 2 for it.
I thought you were going to say 10. I was like, damn, my co-partner's hella racist. Like, this
It just didn't sell enough
woke movie.
plastic.
I go back and forth. It's definitely, it's in the, when we do the saga review, it's definitely going to be top 5 for me.
Your next
Probably.
one is number 1. The next thing we're covering here, Infinity War.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. It's really good. Oh, number 2. Sorry, number 2 for me.
Oh, number 2. Number 2.
Is that your number 1? No, that's your number.
No,
3.
that's my number 3.
Yeah,
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
that's your number 1. Oh, sorry. No, we had that. We had that at our mid, and
both had that at mid. Yeah. Number 11.
Yeah, 11. This might even be my bottom third once we get done with it. Because realistically, I can't put anything above anything else.
I'm going to actually agree at 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel. I'm gonna go 10 for it.
Are you? I'm gonna go. What am I missing here?
You don't have a
6.
9.
I need a 9 and I need a 3. Well, I guess it's not going to be the 3. I'll go 6.
6.
Yep.
And I already said I'm going 10, I think. Did I already say that?
Yep, you did.
All right, Endgame. So I said mid because I was out of top thirds. Now, as David and I talked actually offline a little bit about this, the intention was that not that you would like run out of top thirds, but more so measure how accurate you were throughout the time. So I am, I would say that it's in my top third. That means I'm almost guaranteed to be wrong somewhere. Something that I said was going to be top 10 or top third is not going to be top third.
I have a sternly worded letter from my auditing and accounting firm that just, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, it's obviously a top movie. It's just, not everything can be the top. And that's what we do in the saga review. We just kind of move stuff around.
Yep. I'm number 1.
Number 3.
That's fair.
And here's the thing. I struggle with this because it made $2.8 billion. It is 94% on Rotten Tomato. I think it's because it's so. The thing I struggle with it is like no one doubts it's a fantastic movie, and they pulled off an amazing feat, and visually looks great, and it's emotional, and it ties up a bunch of loose ends, and it is a great film. I struggle because I kind of see that Infinity War and Black Panther as all like kind of number ones. It might switch a little bit. I don't think it'll. I think this is where it's going to end for me because I don't think Infinity War is going to overcome Black Panther for me, and I don't. The only other thing would be would Endgame leapfrog Infinity War, and I think Infinity War is a better movie.
Yeah.
So it's 1, 2, 3, but that's no shade thrown at Avengers Endgame.
And then let's see here. So Spider-Man Far From Home. What am I missing? Am I missing 7?
You're missing a 7.
And that would put it below.
It put above Homecoming. It would be above Strange, below Homecoming.
I actually think I'm satisfied with my rankings. Like that actually makes sense to me.
And I will put mine as 9. That's about right. So if you look at it, so my middle thirds were Strange, Guardians, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man Far From Home. And those came in 10, 7, 11, 6, and 9.
Yeah.
That means Homecoming for me might be a little high at 8. No, I said it was a top third. So I think no. Well, okay. As I'm looking at it, should I switch Guardians and Spider-Man: Homecoming? Because Homecoming I had at 8, Guardians had at 7, and but yet Guardians was mid for me, and Spider-Man: Homecoming was top. Maybe I'll switch those. So maybe Guardians will be 8, Homecoming be 7. So then my 10, 8, 9, 11, and then Captain Marvel was mid for me and it's 6. You know what? I'm going to leave it as is.
Okay.
Like you're saying, the top, middle, bottoms doesn't really matter. We'll probably change our minds in
Well, in
a
the
couple
top,
weeks or
middle,
whatever.
bottoms, also we
They're guesstimates, right?
they're also in the context in which we've watched those movies, right? We hadn't rewatched, say, Captain Marvel at that point. And so they do capture kind of where we were at the time, which is interesting. Um, so well, David fills out our averages here, just to kind of give us an idea of where we as a podcast kind of rank them here. I think this is a good time to remind everybody this is kind of fun. So if you have this, right, if you are listening to this and you are ranking along with us, please, 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 please comment on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, there's a comment feature. Drop your rankings in there, maybe your top 3 or whatever. Drop it on our social media. Send us an email, punypod at earsup-podcast.com. We're on everything, even Blue Sky. We won't follow anyone, or we're not doing anything with it just yet, but we parked the name. So PUNYPOD across all social medias. Share your lists, get the conversation going. Maybe other listeners you can have a conversation around it with other listeners. Be a good time. So yeah. Now that I have bought David enough time, if you look at our average rankings, so amongst the two of us, average ranking and our consensus, where things land, Black Panther, it was our number 1 of the phase as a podcast, which, I put it number 2, but it could float up to number 1. Sure. Number 2 for the phase was Avengers Endgame. Also makes sense. Number 3 was Infinity War. I think those top 3, like you said, David, depending on the day, those might end up someplace different.
Yep. Yep. It's pretty
Uh,
close between them also, right?
yeah, exactly. Number 4, Ragnarok. Number 5, Civil War. Number 6, Spider-Man: Homecoming. I think that's maybe the most surprising out of this consensus listing to me. Um,
I don't know. Like I feel like there's a definite top 5,
yeah,
right? And then it's kind of like when you're doing your fantasy baseball or basketball draft and all the good. You're just like, okay, well the top 5 first basemen are gone. Well, okay, well I guess I draft Spencer Steer. I guess with
right.
the round 11, and I don't I don't love Homecoming, but it's hard. I can't. It's better than Far From Home, and it's for me,
Yeah,
and it's better than Strange, and it's better than Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I mean, kind of makes sense.
yeah. And then as is tradition, we have a tie. Tie at number 7 here, between Far From Home and Captain Marvel. Number 8
Number
is
9,
number 9, yeah, because
yeah,
you skip 8
the
with
tie
the
up.
tie. Yep. Number 9 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 10, Doctor Strange. Number 11, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Those all, there's no surprises other than, I think, like you say, that sharp drop off from 5 to 6 is apparent. And I think, to me, the 2 tied for number 7, and then number 6, being the 2 Spider-Man movies and Captain Marvel, you could throw those into a blender and they might show up someplace different.
Yeah, I need to ruminate on my list.
Yeah.
I honestly, like before the show, I did not. think about the rankings. Or I kind of knew what like
No,
my
that's fair.
top 3 or 4 were, and then we're getting into it, was like, oh man, hold on, we're going a little fast here. But anyway, I think it turned out pretty well. I think it's pretty accurate and consistent with how we viewed it at the time, I think.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Let's see here. So we talked a little bit. What's interesting in this phase. So next little bit. Well, actually, this is something that we do in our super secret spoiler show, but we're gonna bring it to the main feed here, which is a scroll kind of discussion, right? So for those who don't know, if you didn't watch Captain Marvel, the idea was introduced in Captain Marvel of a shape-shifting alien species who can impersonate anybody. We like to look at this as like, who was weird, right? Who wasn't like their character? Who was out of character? Um, and what's interesting now is we can kind of look at this as like, there are 3 characters. I'm trying to decide if we want to spoil this. There are 3 characters that we know. I will name I think that's a big enough spoiler that I would rather not name it here on our main feed for folks who haven't watched Secret Invasion. So Secret Invasion does, center around scroll stuff. There is a lot of scroll there. And there are 2 pretty major characters that you find out have been a scroll for some time. And actually, over in our secret spoiler show for Endgame, we discussed when some of those characters became scrolls. The one character that we know is a scroll, because they exposed this in Far From Home, is Nick Fury. So we know Nick Fury was a scroll at some point. Um, and I'll mention. I think this isn't too big of a spoiler. Nick Fury has a relationship with the Skrulls, including a Skrull wife that we find out about in Secret Invasion. And so at the end of Far From Home, we see that he's off in space and that Talos has been impersonating him on Earth. So the question becomes kind of, when do we think Fury went into space?
I
Um,
I struggled with this quite a bit. This was in on rewatch. I had completely forgotten that we see Fury in space at the end, and then Talos is impersonating him, and that just broke my brain again. I don't know. I don't know why I forgot. I don't know why. Like, I think because
yeah,
we'd seen Secret Invasion, there's so much emphasis on other characters we see in the MCU who turn out to be Skrulls that I forgot it. I or I glossed over it. So
yeah.
I
So when do you think he went off into space?
okay. So let's kind of tick through a little bit. So Civil War, it's Fury, right?
Oh yeah,
We don't see him in Doctor Strange. We don't see him in the Guardians. Don't see him in Homecoming or Ragnarok or Black Panther, right?
right.
He gets blipped at the end of Infinity War,
Yep.
and then he's gone until Endgame.
And we don't see him in Endgame except for he's not in the fight in Endgame. He's only at the funeral in Endgame.
He's only at the funeral at Endgame, and we know that in Spider-Man: Far From Home,
He's
that's not him.
yeah. He's
So you have 2 choices. He either bailed out to space before Infinity War, or after Endgame and before Far From Home. Now, because the funeral for Tony had to occur pretty close to the final fight.
yeah.
I thought, let me go back to my notes. I thought like Far From Home took place like right after the snap, right? Because people are coming back.
Well, the schools have had time to figure out like what like what they're gonna do, right? They've done the policy decisions on like where kids come back. It
Okay, got it.
it's seemingly the end of,
It's
because I think
it's
the Battle of Earth happened in the fall, right?
yeah. So this is the first. This movie is set 6 months after
Okay,
Endgame.
yeah.
Just looked up notes. So yeah, 6 months. I think that's when he bailed out.
I think he bailed out after Civil War.
Really
And then I do think he came back to the planet for the funeral. I think he popped back in. And here's an additional theory for you. I don't think he blipped. I think I think
you think
Talos
Talos? You think Talos Fury
Talos
blipped?
blipped. Yeah, Talos Fury blipped. And Fury was off in space that whole time working on his stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
That's why it's so advanced when we see it. Because I
Yeah.
mean it's a full like factory situation when we see it, right?
So somewhere. Okay. So somewhere after. So the argument for that is as soon as he sees what's going on in after Civil War, he's got to and the Sokovia Accords
He
basically mean like
basically
get a
sees
measure
that
out.
the Avengers are his baby, the Avengers are toast,
Right.
right? He's like, all right, this Avengers situation is not what I want to do anymore. The Avengers have now transferred into government control, right? Like in
Yep.
theory, they're under government control. And so yeah, he sees all that, he bounces. That also makes sense why he wasn't in, because you would think he would show up in Homecoming. You would think he would show up in Black Panther. Um there's a few times where it's like, why wasn't Fury here? Um and so I think it's because it was Talos who maybe didn't have the same sensibilities that Fury had.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, and it would have to have been real Fury that's at the funeral. Like if it were fake
Yeah.
Fury, that would
Oh,
just be the
yeah.
worst. That'd be the awful, awful. So okay, so you think at least Fury. Well, if it's Fury, then it's going to be then Agent Hill. I mean, she was not
Yeah.
blipped, but it had to
Right,
be the
right,
two.
right,
Okay,
right.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I think either one of those works. Who, if you were to pick your most likely scroll from Phase 3, the person who acts the most out of pocket, the most inconsistent with their character, that you were like, the only way this person could be real is if it's played by, if it's really a scroll behind there. Who's your number one?
That's tough. Because, first thing that comes to mind is maybe Thor, because his character changed so much, but I think his character arc is really believable, right? He had his foundations shook and really kind of adjusted to that. Um I guess I'm going to say Iron Man.
Okay. Why?
He just does this 180 from the like, and I just today was listening to our Iron Man 2 super secret spoiler show, and we were talking about like how gross Iron Man is around Pepper and stuff, and really he does this massive 180 from like being the billionaire playboy philanthropist to kind of being the almost family man through a lot of this, and very focused on protecting people who are close to him. And that started a little bit in Age of Ultron, hence why Ultron exists.
Yep.
um but I do think it's maybe the largest character shift that I think happens the most off screen, and that's what makes it just to me feel a little bit out of place.
You would think that the turn from Tony Stark from the first movie becoming kind of anti-government and realizing what his weapons are used for and realizing the importance of the Avengers and why you have to have a suit of armor around the world. Seems to me like you would be opposed to the Sokovia Accords, so I could see why you would think that that person might be a Skrull,
Yeah.
right? Uh, you could also see him as like the industrialist who are like, okay, we won't have the Avengers anymore, but I'll still sell you my suit of armor around the world. And we kind of talked about a little bit in Far From Home, where we talk about the drones, right? This
Mm-hmm.
drones in space and so forth. And when does that come up? Tony's a good call. I think that's a strong call for like because his character did shift materially. My number well, my number one. My number two on rewatch, and I heard a podcast talk about this, and it really struck me. The difference between T'Challa at the end of Civil War and in his own movie is wild. And
Mm.
once I started thinking about, because he is like angry and vengeful, and like
Yeah.
he is, and then you see him, and he's much more um,
Not
regal
quite
and
stoic, but yeah.
yeah, but it's a much different portrayal. I like them both. I think they were obviously both represented or were presented by different directorial visions, and so I don't, not to begrudge either one. That would be my second choice. My number one is Maria Rambeau, who is 500% a scroll. I do not believe this is a real person.
Too much
She,
pluck. Oh no, Maria.
no, Maria, not Monica.
Maria.
Maria.
Maria. Yeah.
She barely recognizes Carol. Has to like
Yeah.
fake like she knows her. Her daughter talks a bunch of smack, and she just like just not react at all. Like clear scroll. Number one, easy choice.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm gonna run down our MVPs real quick, super super fast. We're actually gonna do more with our MVPs probably in the saga review. So I'm gonna run down kind of our MVPs from each movie. David, feel free to butt in with any like commentary you might have, but yeah. Captain America: Civil War. And I should preface this by saying, if you haven't listened to our other episodes, our MVPs are basically, who we like best, the most valuable player from the movie. Captain America: Civil War. I picked Finding Zemo, aka Baron Zemo. David, you picked T'Challa. Uh, in Doctor Strange, we both picked Doctor Strange. Unsurprising there. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I picked Ego, you picked Yondu, and then we actually did some runners up for that one. I think we just there was like it was really close on these. So my runner up was Drax. David, your runner up was Mantis. Spider-Man Homecoming, I picked Adrian Toomes. David, you picked Spider-Man, specifically Tom Holland's portrayal. That's going to become important in a little bit. um, Thor Ragnarok, I picked Korg. Hey, I'm Korg. David, you picked Thor. Black Panther, we both picked Killmonger. Not too surprising there. Although now I'm realizing I never picked T'Challa
Well,
ever.
I was about to come back to this in a second, but keep going.
Yeah. We did also pick runners up here because we wanted to not just agree on everything. I picked M'Baku and you picked Njobu.
Mm-hmm.
Infinity War, I picked Thanos. I picked bad guys a lot. I picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ish bad guys. Interesting. So yeah, I picked Thanos. You picked Gamora in Infinity War, and then Eric, our guest, actually picked Doctor Strange. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I picked Hank Pym. You picked Hope Van Dyne. Captain Marvel, I picked Talos. You picked Brie Larson. Then David or Dan picked Jan Rog. Endgame, I picked Smart Hulk. You picked Iron Man, and Eric picked Captain America. And then Spider-Man Far From Home, I picked Spider-Man, you picked Mysterio.
Correct. Correct. So yeah, and to be clear, like I picked not Brie Larson, but her character, Carol
Yeah.
Danvers. I typed that in wrong. But is there anyone on your list you would change? You would swap out?
um I
The
think I was
Killmonger one, the Killmonger one stands out for me. For you.
stands out.
I couldn't pick
Yeah.
him because I picked him in Civil War, but
Yeah, and I think I was trying to save T'Challa for a later choice because for those who don't know, we can only pick him once. I was trying to save T'Challa for a later time, but I don't know. I don't know though. Like it's so hard, T'Challa or Killmonger, who's better. And what's actually interesting is what I'm gonna say here in a second. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna sub anyone out right now. We're gonna do more with this in the saga review. We're cooking something up that may involve some audience participation with these MVPs. So if you are interested in getting in on the audience participation, make sure you're on the Ears Up Discord. Link is down in our show notes as always. I'll be posting stuff to the Marvel channel once we get there. But anything else on MVPs, David, before we jump into the actual on-screen, off-screen MVPs that we usually do in these phase wrap-ups?
no, I think that works for me.
Cool. So yeah, in the phase wrap-ups, we like to kind of pick a on-screen MVP, so somebody who either the actor was really great or the character was really great, whatever. And somebody off-screen, right? So somebody who you didn't necessarily see like in the forefront in
And this is
past.
for the phase. This is
Yeah,
not for
for
like
the
a
phase,
particular. Yeah, yeah.
right? Yep. It's for the phase. Now, I will say, like, and that gets a little funky when you look at mine, particularly the off screen. But so let's start with on screen MVPs. David, who is your phase 3 on screen MVP?
There are a lot of choices to
Yes.
go with, right? I went with Chris Evans, Captain America,
Yep.
and there are, I think, a few like leading choices, but for me, obviously, front and center in Civil War. He was decided he was the anti-accords. The interaction between him and Tony in that movie, which obviously kind of sets up the splitting off and the splintering of the Avengers. Um, Major in Infinity War, and if you love Endgame, you have to love
Oh
Captain
yeah.
America. Like it is prime Steve Rogers. I don't want to say Steve Rogers porn, but like it's like the high, like it's so great. The
Yeah.
very end when he's got Mjolnir and he's the Avengers assemble and like he's standing up and fighting with half a shield and like do this all day. For me, he's my on-screen MVP for the phase. How about you?
For me, I am going to pick Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. I think from his introduction in Civil War through to his solo movie, which, as we just talked about, best movie of the phase consensus on our show, um, to the way he shows up in Infinity War, to being the first person to step through the portal in Endgame. It's like his arc is so good, and unfortunately this is all we get of Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. So I'm not gonna lie, the emotions of like losing this heavyweight actor absolutely played into this decision for me. But I do think even if Chadwick Boseman were here today and we're still playing the character, I think I would still have picked it this way. Iron Man. Everybody knows I'm an Iron Man fan. I love Iron Man. Um, I think he. I think he was put in his right position in this movie, or in this phase. He was a C-list character in the comics. He was always somebody's team up or part of the Avengers, and that's where he fit into this phase, and that's why anybody who's surprised I didn't pick him as a MVP, just because I think he was more in his position as kind of the supporting cast.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy argument. They conclude his story. You see the kind of his development and the evolution, the impact on the Avengers, his own
Yeah.
character, his arc, if you will. He's in half the movies, right? He just doesn't impact the Avengers. He also plays a big role in the Spider-Man series.
Right.
So he was my second choice. I do think you need to swap out Killmonger for Black Panther,
T'Challa.
but we'll put that aside. So who's your off-screen MVP?
So this person only really had a hand in one of the movies, but I think the hand he had was so, and I actually referenced this earlier in the episode. Um, I'm going with Kendrick Lamar for
Okay.
his work on the soundtrack to Black Panther. I back when I was when I was doing professional bearding, which we'll talk about in a second again, I had like a pump up playlist, and like half the Black Panther soundtrack was on that pump up playlist. That soundtrack is something that I to this day will turn on. Literally was just in the Super Bowl. Um, it is a masterwork in making very impactful music that is also highly enjoyable to turn on and just listen to. So for the work on Black Panther soundtrack, I have to go with Kendrick Lamar.
Okay. That's a real, I mean, I think he also, I mean, he was really, the music in that movie really is outstanding. And I could see why, um, and again, kind of the cultural fit, the Kendrick Lamar, top of the game, like, very evocative in terms of like, bringing sound to the characters, music to the characters, if that kind of makes sense. That's a good
Yeah,
call.
exactly. And I think that that's a really good way to put it, is that the folks who write scores, they obviously they give some feeling to the characters, but Marvel has never had super strong scores. It's not like the Star Wars theme that you can walk wherever and you hear it. I recognize the Avengers theme, but I'd probably be um in the minority for that. Whereas I think the sound of Black Panther and the way that it's impacted by Kendrick Lamar's, Black Panther the album, um I can walk around and I can hear all the stars, or um pray for me, or any of the songs off that soundtrack, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, that
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a good
that's Black
call.
Panther.
I will say, and if anybody is unfamiliar with the theme and soundtracks from the major MCU films, I would say go to Disneyland, hang out at Avengers Campus, wait in line in Pim's Kitchen, and you will have the Ant-Man theme drummed in your head for permanently. Like you will not get that out. So that's a really good
You're not
call.
wrong, you're not
Yeah,
wrong.
that's a really good call. I went with the Russo brothers. It was kind of an easy choice for me.
Wow.
Directed Civil War. They directed Endgame. They directed Infinity War. They're coming back. I what else can you say? Like they pulled it off. I think the team, and we've seen other teams in the MCU do films together. So I think it was Ant-Man and the Wasp. But there've been a couple.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Russos, which is kind of cool, is because obviously they're on the same page, right? It's easy for them to manage a huge cast. You think of a single primary director, you think about Ryan Coogler, you think of anyone else who are like in the directing forefront, and it's them, it's their vision, it's James Gunn, it's whomever. And to be able to split that between two people and kind of manage like these huge these huge movies is a testament. It's great. Like I can't imagine if we had Joss Whedon pulling off Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. I just don't see it happening. It's
Yeah.
just too big. It's too big.
Yeah.
So the Russo brothers are my, I guess, co-MVP off screen.
Hey, We never talked about this, but is there a rule against our off-screen MVP appearing on screen?
Don't you try to do that, man. That's cheap.
I
No,
can't.
that's a fair point.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I think, yeah, and I can't remember. Was it Joe Russo? Oh,
I believe it was.
or if they were ineligible, if any of their like family members
Oh
or
God,
boyfriends of family members
10
were.
million times.
I
Yeah,
mean, I would say the same
I
thing,
guess
man.
that. I guess you know what. That's how they had to save some cash on Endgame.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. So, all right, you mentioned bearding before, and so one of the things we do on the spoiler show is to talk about the facial hair of the folks who appear in the Marvel movies. Each movie, we will look at the top, typically beards, but off sometimes it's just a mustache. And for that movie, Ryan will review. He will provide his expert insights, and he will rank them:
Yeah.
gold, silver, bronze. And so we're not going to go through the 50 or 60 beards on this you because we don't hate ourselves that much. But we've picked the leading beard from each movie. We're going to run through them really quick. And, maybe, and at the end, Ryan, maybe pick your gold, silver, and bronze.
Okay, I
Okay,
can do that.
cool. Civil War, T'Chaka. How
Yeah,
would you how would you describe his beard?
yeah. T'Chaka has a very closely cut circular goatee around his mouth. It's not very long or anything. It is white, which, for those of you who have not listened to the Super Secret Spoiler Show before, I do give some bonus credit for salt and pepper or white beards slash facial hair. Or interesting colors, as we will come across here in one more movie. But yeah, if I remember right, Civil War was fairly dry for beards.
It was. John kind of had a great beard, but it was not. It was some slim pickings. So next up, Doctor Strange. We have the actor who played Hamir, and I am scrolling through and trying to find his name, and I cannot find his name. Anyway,
Yeah.
Hamir, how would you describe his facial hair?
Yeah, so another circular goatee, but with a much longer chin section. What actually ended up winning him this credit was that his coloration is really interesting. So, just past about like where his clavicle would be, I guess is the best way to describe it. Kind of just past his neck. His beard switches from a dark, almost black hair to a white. And it kind of has this cool ombre effect to it. And I think it's actually braided and maybe has some beads there at the end. Our screen cap's a little bit fuzzy, but if I remember right from the movie, I think maybe he had like little tiny braids at the end or
Okay,
something.
man,
But
I'm doing my best here.
no, you're doing great. You're doing great.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a very distinct. It's very long. I seem to recall too. There was like some sort of like something textured or some beads at the very very end.
yeah,
Next up, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Kurt Russell,
beautiful man.
Ego, beautiful man.
No wonder he infected the world or the universe with cancer. I would let him infect me with cancer.
Jesus Christ.
No. So he's got a full beard, salt and pepper going on. It's a good looking beard, man. I'm not gonna lie. He's rocking that gray salt and pepper kind of look. It's probably a couple inches off his chin, nothing too crazy. What's funny is I'm going to describe the next. I am describing the next one almost word for word the same way, the one from Spider-Man: Homecoming, but they're kind of very different beards, which is kind of funny to me. But yeah, salt and pepper, full beard, couple inches off, off the chin. Nice mustache, good strong mustache. Yeah,
Great hair. Great
yes,
hair.
great hair.
Spider-Man Homecoming, Mr. Delmar has kind of a similar, you described it as kind of a similar beard.
Yeah, very, very similar. I think the big difference is, he's not a insane planet that can shape himself into the absolute, you know, perfect picture of a man or whatever. So, he looks a little bit more normal with it, right? It's a little bit more grounded, if you will.
Okay. Next up, Thor Ragnarok. We've got
Odin
Odin, aka
Sinterklaas.
I was going to say Mall Santa.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably like 4 inches off his chin, strong mustache, pure white. We make the joke of Santa Claus because yeah, he looks like Santa Claus. Yeah,
500%. Next up, Black Panther. We have that is M'Baku. No,
yeah,
yeah,
Mbaku,
M'Baku. Trying to think of the actor's name.
Winston Dukes,
Winston Duke. Thank you very much. So, what do you think of Winston's beard?
curlier hair, a little bit closer to the face. Very trimmed, very like lined up, if you will. But I would say it's maybe an inch or two off his hanging off his chin there. Um, really good looking beard, and it pairs up well with the tight high and tight fade he's got going on up at the top.
I would kill to have this beard. Agreed. Next up, Infinity War. We had some controversy on the
We
show.
did
This
have some
was
controversy.
This was a very tense moment between you and Eric. Eric, you had chosen one person. Eric had chosen someone else. You both have fantastic beards. I don't like to see mom and dad fight, so I stayed out of it. Um, but Eric said Heimdall again, great beard. You
Yeah.
had said three as
Three.
three as your choice for beard of the movie. Like, why did you choose Etri? How would
Yeah,
you describe it?
I chose Etri. It's a full beard. It's a long beard. I'm a sucker for a long beard. Anytime one of these movies includes somebody with a beard over 4 inches, I'm basically going to auto include them. Um, so, and he does have a very strong mustache as well, which is something near and dear to my heart as a full beard styled stash competitor. I love to see a very strong stash. Married up to a long beard.
Okay. Well, yeah, a little. It's very full. Little. Etri looks like he could spend a little time at the salon. Look, his
Yeah.
hair is a little matted, but not gonna ding him for that. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Elementary school teacher. I don't know if he even had a name, but he was the one who caught Scott walk down the hallway with
Yeah.
the oversized sweatshirt on. How would you rank? How would you describe this beard? It's not the greatest photo, but like
Yeah.
you kind of get the idea. I think this is also his 24/7 beard. So
Yes. I've seen this actor with this beard in other places. Brian McCluskey, if I remember correctly, is his name.
sure.
Full beard, close to the face, probably, you know, inch and a half off the face. What actually ended up winning him was the interesting coloring. He kind of has this crescent shaped dark spot that runs from one side of his chin up across his mustache down to the other side of his chin,
Hmm.
and kind of like a rainbow over his mouth. Really cool. Otherwise it's kind of a gray salt and pepper beard. So it was something that's come out through this is I'm a sucker for some cool coloration. I don't think that it's dyed that way. I think that's just the way his hair is. His hair appears, and so yeah.
I think that's right. Speaking of coloration, segue Captain Marvel, Braun Char. How would you describe the beard? I think it's kind of yellow orangish. I think.
Yeah, it's hard because it's up against blue skin. He's um, a blue Cree,
Hmm.
so it is striking having this white or yellow or whatever blonde beard up on this blue skin. Again, full beard. It is over 4 inches, I would guess. So that's what gave it the win. And yeah, good long beard. That it's fairly well shaped. It's not like a poofy beard. It's more, and actually my beard kind of grows like this when I let it, or when I really let it grow out, where it almost starts laying down all the way across
Hmm.
the cheeks, and it just kind of grows straight down rather than poofing out like other beards here. So
Well, you as a fan of a full beard, next up, we have Thor in Endgame. Um, there were a couple different Thor beards you could have gone with. There was the braided
yeah,
one, but like, what do you how would you describe, this is the scene, I think he's talking to Frigga, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah, so our screenshot in the show notes is from where he's talking to Frigga. This one, full beard, it's poofier, right? I was just talking about beards that go straight down. His is poofier. I think it's largely to cover the seams of the fat suit. But I will say the one that during the episode, the one that I said I was actually picking was Thor from the last battle, where he's got a beard, or he's got a braid running down the middle and like beard around it, and it's this epic kind of
It's badass.
Viking-y beard. Yeah,
Yeah.
super super cool. So that, I that one I was always gonna win. And then I will real quickly say, so again, a little behind the scenes peek. We actually haven't done the secret spoiler show for Spider-Man Far From Home yet. So this one's a surprise to David. I went by memory and also by pity. Um,
Oh,
poor, poor Martin Starr and Mr. Harrington, and the awful time that man had, all while sporting a fantastic full beard. He gets my best beard for Spider-Man Far From Home.
just making the rounds. Anyone need emotional counseling?
My wife blipped out, and we even had a funeral.
Oh, so sad. I think it's a good call. He's how would you describe the his beard?
Full beard, close to the face, nothing hanging off, nothing too crazy. Probably if you were to walk into a high school today, you would see a teacher with this beard.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I see people like that at work. Okay, so real quick, you have 11 choices, all great beards. Who is your? We'll go bronze, silver, gold. So who is your bronze? This is fascinating to me, by the way.
Bronze is super hard. I'm not gonna lie. We're looking at like the best of the best here, and so I am going to go for bronze. I'm gonna go Hamir.
Wow.
That coloration just, man, it's just so cool. Plus, he has a French fork in his beard, which is something I think is underrated. I think it looks cool.
Damn. Okay. Who is your? I'm going through the list, and there's going to be some disappointed people at the end of
Yeah,
this podcast. All right. Who's your silver?
silver is Bronchar.
Okay.
Um, it's another full long beard. It's so Etri, I kind of discounted after it because his is more of a scraggly beard. Um, love to see him take a brush through it. Um,
No kidding.
Thor, Odin from Thor Ragnarok. I discounted just because like it's a little shorter, um, and even though the beards are beautiful on all these men, um, yeah, there could only be a top three. Um, so yeah, Bronchar for silver, and then gold, to no one's surprise. No one's gonna be surprised what gold was. I think the controversy is in the silver and bronze, but gold is Thor from Endgame.
Wow. I would have thought Ego would have made top three.
That's fair. It is a beautiful beard, and honestly, it's tough, man. This is like judging worlds back in 2017, where I placed 7th in the world. Um,
Sucking rest of the world. Am I right?
yeah, right. Um, but no, I think great, with the exception of a couple. This was actually a pretty good phase for facial hair, which is reflective of the time as well. I should say that like beards became cool during this like in culture during this time. And so it's unsurprising that there's some good facial hair in the MCU at this point.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think those are. It's hard to argue with. It's hard to argue with the choices. So that's phase three.
That is phase 3. Well, y'all, what's really exciting is we get to move on to phase 4 next. Phase 4 is chock full of content, right? So we just talked about how we didn't get a whole lot of movies, but we have TV shows for the first time in phase 4. So I'm going to quickly run down the releases that'll be part of phase 4. I'm not doing them in order. I'm going to do movies first and then TV shows. On our year in preview, we went through what we're doing this year. So if you want to know when a particular episode is coming out, go listen to that. And then David, I know you have some notes about how phase 4 was announced, so I'll let you do that after I kind of talk through the movies. So quick rundown of the movies and TV shows. We have Black Widow, we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. We have the Eternals, which David famously has seen over 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
We have Spider-Man No Way Home. We have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We have Thor Love and Thunder. And we have Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Those are our films that'll be part of Phase 4. And then actually for the first time in the MCU proper, don't talk to us about Agent Carter or Agents of Shield, but there's actually TV shows that are considered part of the MCU. We have WandaVision, we have Falcon and Winter Soldier, we have Loki season 1, we have What If season 1, we have Hawkeye, we have Moon Knight, we have Ms. Marvel, and we have She-Hulk Attorney at Law. So
Yeah,
lots of stuff to look forward to.
there's a lot. There's a lot to nerd out on. This was in it. So at Comic Con in July 2019, he announced like the first slate of like phase 4 movies. And again, Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and the first 5 series will be released on Disney Plus. And he confirmed there would be at that time connections between the films and the series, with the events of WandaVision setting up Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and Loki tying into it. As we get into the shows, we will get into the fact that sometimes the showrunners weren't aware of what was happening with the other projects, and now it's kind of reflected in some of the quality of some of them. And then, later on, he announced the full slate, as Ryan said. It begins with the very first property is Black Widow, which came out July 9, 2021 on Disney Plus. And
Ooh.
the last property is Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which came out in November 2022.
David, why did nothing come out between announcing it in July of 2019 and January of 2021? Why'd nothing come out? I don't understand.
I don't know. I kind of went to a mental fog for a couple of years there. So we'll
Yeah.
talk about like the impact of pandemic and on release schedules and on movies and on TV shows. You can see it in some of the shows. I think it'll be. While I don't look back fondly during those
Sure.
times, it will be interesting to look back retroactively and kind of see. And I think we have to, Ryan, when we look at this stuff, I think we have to cut things a little bit of slack. I think
Oh yeah.
phase 4 gets kind of dumped on a little bit, but it's like, I don't know, you couldn't go to a movie theater without dying. So you got to kind of balance it out,
Yeah. Yeah, actually, and that brings up a good point, David. What out of this are you looking forward to getting back to?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, I will give one for movies and I will give one for shows.
Okay.
For movie, I will say Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, only because I've not seen it a ton.
Yeah.
And it's set in San Francisco. I'm using the little air finger San Francisco. And I want to remind myself and get rid of the old Mandarin out of my mind and replace it with a new one. How about you? Which movie are you most looking forward to?
I think movies wise, I'm very interested, and I don't know if it's looking forward to. I'm going to say interested in getting back to Multiverse of Madness. I loved Multiverse of Madness when it came out. I know it's maligned by a lot of people. I am interested to see if it holds up to time and holds up to a rewatch. I will say overall, I am excited to get to like phase 4 and beyond. Have not been out long enough for me to rewatch them a million times and be hungover on a Sunday and watch them like I talked about with phase 1. They just don't have the benefit of time, and B, like I, I just like I don't know. These are they're ones that I've watched less of. I can picture them less in my brain. So I'm just more interested. I'm very interested to get to these, um, and see how they hold up. And I hope that like reviewing them, maybe I think an internet argument I get into often is the whole like the MCU died after Endgame, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm interested to kind of look at this phase as the phase that often gets held up as the problem with the MCU. And I'm really interested to get back to him.
Okay. How about TV show? Which one are you looking forward to most?
That's a hard one, man. I'm gonna say our first TV show, WandaVision.
Yeah.
I remember it so fondly, and I don't know if it's just because we were in the pandemic, dearth of content or whatever, but um yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to WandaVision. And we're actually wrapping back around. Was WandaVision coming out while we were recording podcasts? No. No, we've been at it a few
No.
years.
No. That was well before. But I do remember distinctly watching it,
Yeah.
breathlessly waiting for it to come out. That was a very good choice. I would have said Falcon the Winter Soldier, but I just rewatched it in anticipation for the movie that's coming out this week. I'm going to choose Loki.
Fair
Just
enough.
yeah, I mean, all these are pretty good choices. There are some that are kind of in the top third for me, and WandaVision, Loki are two of them. So those are two I'm looking forward to. Rewatching. Same thing.
And you don't have to pick one for you don't have to pick any, but are there any that you're looking at this slate and you're like, oh god, we have to do
Tokyo Drift. I don't see it's not on the list. I'm not. I don't. So Eternals I've not seen, so I can't choose that one because I don't have any reason to not want to see it.
Sure.
Love and Thunder, don't love it. Or in actually, I take it back. Multiverse Madness. I don't love the multiverse stuff, so I'd
Yeah.
probably choose that one for me. But I want to go with it with like a fresh perspective and just knowing where we ended up. It'll be interesting to see. How about you?
Yeah. I think not necessarily like, oh, we have to do it, but more of a like, is this gonna be what I remember? I think Thor: Love and Thunder, because I did enjoy Thor: Love and Thunder. I enjoy Taika Waititi's work, and
Mm-hmm.
so I liked that they let him cook on it. And so I'm nervous, I would say, about Thor: Love and Thunder because it's like, I know everybody hates it. I know people don't like it, and I have been a staunch defender of it, and I am nervous to get back to it in like, is it going to hold up to the light of day?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I hear you. It's a good call.
cool. Well, David, anything else you want to say before I do our closing remarks?
Nope. I'm good, man. This is fun.
Right on, right on. Well, here is to at least two more phases of Marvel movies. We've got Phase 4 coming up next, and then Phase 5, which is actually wrapping up in real time here. in the next couple of years. So we've got a couple more phases to go. We have our as I mentioned kind of at the top, saga review next month. Month after that, we will be reviewing Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. I won the bet, so therefore we get to review that movie. um, and let's see, what else do we got? Listen to the other shows on the network. We have Ears Up, which is the flagship show for the network. We've got Bantha Milk. Bantha Milk just did Star Wars Podcast Day. So over in the Star Wars sphere, they celebrate the first day that the first Star Wars podcast ever came out, called Jedi Talk. Every Star Wars podcast, or all of them that celebrate, record a podcast on the same day and then put it out. So they just did a special edition of their podcast with Teg from Teg from DL Weekly and the Hub Crawl. He came on as a guest for that. It's actually a really fun episode. I would definitely suggest listening to that. Let's see. There is the Hub Crawl, the Hub Crawl's not on the network, but I was just on it. And also welcome to all of our listeners who came over in the bump from that episode. I know that we saw a good number of people pick up our show after that appearance. So welcome if you're coming over from that. Let's see what else. The Supreme Resort, they are taking a break from hotels and are doing Hall of Presidents right now, which is a pretty good one. Hall of Presidents versus Abraham Lincoln. The Scraping the Vault folks are about to do their last dealer's choice. I forget. It's changed a couple times what their last dealer's choice is going to be, but they're in their dealer's choice season, which they do kind of at the end of the year / beginning of the year. Buena Vista Boys are on a hiatus. They kind of do like 10 episodes at a time and then take a break. So they're gearing up for their next season. I think that's everything. I said Ears Up, Scraping the Vault. Yeah, that's everything. Listen to Bowie splaining. Check us out on all your socials, like I mentioned a few times during the episode. And other than that, I think that is enough said. Puny Pod will return with a saga review. I don't know what we should do for the after credit scene.
Do them all again.
Ka-chink. That was supposed to be the hammer from the end of.
I got it.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Cool.